I'm joined here today with my dad, and we're just going to have a chat about the personality tests that I've took part in, and to see whether he agrees if I have certain traits, to see whether the tests that I've taken place in are accurate. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, would you agree that I'm extroverted?
Yeah, absolutely. I would. It's one of the things I see as a parent is that you have plenty of friends, and that within that friendship group, I think you're one of the most more vocal people in there. And certainly from my experience of watching you grow up, that you've never been too shy to put yourself forward for things, and you're very much at the centre of activities. However, I suppose the one thing I would say is your extroversion when it comes to singing is perhaps a little bit over the top, and wish you had maybe a better voice, but it does show that you're the extroversion in your character. Yeah, definitely an extrovert character.
So the next question I'm going to ask is, what would your opinion be on the energy I have towards things?
Yeah, thank you. I think in terms of there's two things here. There's both the mental energy that you display and the physical energy that you display. Certainly from a physical point of view, you're very energetic, you're out and about, you're keen to do things. At the gym, you've been playing hockey, so you're very physically energetic, but I think that transcends into your sort of mental energy being high as well, in that you are constantly pushing the boundaries, pushing to do things. For example, there have been a number of interviews, this one included, that you have sort of shown a lot of energy in making sure it's happening, and pushing me to meet that demand. I can look at what you were like when you were trying to pass your driving test, and the energy you showed there in terms of that you realised that it was a task that you had. There were certain aspects that you couldn't achieve when you were out with your driving instructor, and certain aspects that you needed to work on, and therefore there was an energy in you to sort of push me to help you do those parking manoeuvres. And yeah, definitely a very highly enthusiastic and energetic person, both physically and mentally.
Would you be of the same opinion that I am a strong team worker?
From the evidence that I see in your daily life, yeah. Whilst I'm not sure what happens in the school environment and how you work there, but I can only pass comment on how I see you living your life from a team working perspective around the house. And I do see you online with your friends discussing school projects, etc., with the colleagues. And I think equally outside of the educational environment, the fact that you've gone out and got yourself at least 2 jobs now, where I've seen you work in a team environment, and see how you fit in that environment in the retail scene. So yeah, I think you are a very strong team worker. Yeah.
So the next thing I've got to ask you is, would you describe me as an adventurous person?
Almost certainly. Yeah, definitely. I think from a young age, I've seen you be very inquisitive as a person, and look to find new experiences, and very much enjoy your life. Things such as the want to do paddle boarding or camping, go to festivals. And most recently, within the last couple of weeks, we've seen the sort of adventurous side of you in the choices of potential universities that you're going to go to come a year September, and that you're not looking to seek within the sort of geographical boundaries of South Wales. You're looking to adventure far afield. I think from a very young age, you were somebody who always had a career choice in mind. Now that's changed over the years, but I think you've always been adventurous and thinking forward into the future and seeing how to make the most of that future. Yeah, definitely adventurous person.
So what are your views of how practical of a person I am?
Yeah, definitely. I think you're a very practical person with a realistic view on what you can achieve within your chosen sphere. I think that you have a realistic view of what can be done in the timescales, and I think from a practical point of view, you approach problems with that practical mindset. Again, would draw attention to you trying to pass your driving test, that you set out in a methodical manner how you're going to achieve it, that you saw where your shortcomings were, and then you look to address those in terms of getting greater practice in. If I look at the practicalities that you've exhibited when you've been doing your DT project, there's definitely been a linear view of how things have achieved. You've gone back, you've reviewed the project, you've gone back to see how it works in the environment that it was supposed to be operating in, and following that feedback loop, you've revised the project and come up with a very different product to what started off in the initial phase of the project. So I think definitely there's a practicality about the way you address problems and progress projects. Definitely, yeah.
So what are your views on my ability to plan things?
I think perhaps this is one of the examples that maybe you're not so strong in that area, and I know you're quite harsh on yourself in terms of that you think this was one of your weaker skills. And perhaps a look at this in terms of how this interview was arranged, and that I think you have to realise sometimes that other people's timescales won't necessarily fall in line with your own timescales, and that you have to make sure that people have the other people within a project plan are aligned with the same time planning horizon as yourself. But I wouldn't be too harsh on yourself. I think your career aspirations at the moment of trying to become a construction project manager are admirable, and that you've taken steps along that planning process to plan your own career, in that you've researched universities to go to, you've looked at when those open days are, and you have then come to me and said, are we available to go on these days? Can you adapt your plans, Dad, to fit in with that? So I wouldn't be too harsh on yourself, but I think at the same time what you need to realise is that when you are planning, that you need to plan, and those plans involve other people, which they necessarily will when you're in the working environment, that you have to take into account other people's time scales as well, and make sure that they dovetail in with your planning aspirations. So, yeah.
So would you class me as a spontaneous person?
Absolutely I would, yeah. Yeah, you're certainly somebody who wants to get things done and get things done now, and if people can't do things now, then if not, why not? And you better give it a damn good reason as to why things can't be done. But yeah, over the years, I've seen the sort of spontaneity in you be exhibited in line with your sort of energetic extroversion characteristics. So in terms, there are the spontaneity. I look in the garage now and I still see the football boots that I bought for you because you just suddenly decided you wanted to become part of the school rugby team, and that lasted probably a couple of weeks. I've seen you flit around, but yeah, it's you're keen to experience new experiences, and you're not somebody that just sits on the fence and goes, oh, well, I wonder how that will work over there. You're very much somebody that dives into a situation, and whether that proves to be a fruitful outcome or not, it doesn't deter you from trying to find out what that experience is all about. So, yeah, definitely somebody who dives in and finds out what the results are going to be, rather than looking for the potential downfalls of any exercise that you may go into. So yeah, definitely very spontaneous person.
So how would you rate my communication skills?
Yeah, very, very, very good. I think with communications in the work environment, people always say, that communications could be better, but I think certainly in a domestic environment that we've got here, you're very good at communicating what needs to be known. You choose to tell people what it is that needs to be known, and don't really overburden with information that's not relevant, really. So you don't tell me every time you go to the shops, you don't tell me every time you've gone out with your friends, because it's not necessary sometimes. But in terms of the communications relating to what needs to be done in terms of exam work, or whether it be in relation to your driving tests, and where other people are involved in your plans, you're very good at involving them and communicating what your needs are. So I would say I think you recognise what needs to be communicated, and don't overburden people with additional information that they don't need. So yeah, I'd say you're a very good communicator.
Thank you for your input on these things.
That's okay. It's been quite a pleasure. Thank you very much.